Hello, everyone. Today I would like to talk about Japan's inheritance tax. It is a trap that you don't see coming until the teeth are already securely around you. If you've lived in Japan, you're married to a Japanese family, or you've bought property here, your estate might already be in the Japan tax net, and you might not even know about it. Even if you later leave Japan, even if your children live abroad, and even if your assets are overseas, Japanese law can still tax your estate up to 55% unless you are properly prepared. Hi, my name is Timothy Langley, and for more than 30 years, I've worked inside Japan's political system and advised foreign executives, diplomats, and long-term residents. I've helped dozens of families navigate inheritance disasters they never saw coming. The worst part? Most of it could have been avoided with just a little bit of planning. Japan's inheritance system is deeply statutory. If you don't have a will, the law takes over and your estate is divided by a formula. The spouse and the children split the estate. If there's no spouse, it goes to your children, then to your parents, then to your siblings in that order. Even if you do have a will, Japanese law guarantees a minimum share, iryubun, to close relatives. They can claim their slice whether you intended it or not. And yes, everything goes through Japan's family court, which is where matters can really get complicated. So let me explain why this becomes a real problem for foreigners. Japan has what's known as a 10-year rule. If you lived in Japan at any time during the 10 years before your death, or if your heirs are residents of Japan when you die, the authorities may tax your entire global estate. You could leave Japan, die 5 years later in Florida, and still face a huge inheritance tax in Japan on everything you own simply because your daughter still lives in Tokyo. I see it all the time. So there's a fellow, let's call him David, who came to me not long ago. He had lived in Japan for decades, owned a condominium in Tokyo, and had a will from his home country written in English and notarized. He thought he was covered. Then he died. Japanese tax authorities froze his accounts. His Japanese wife had to translate and certify his foreign will and submit it to the family court. Meanwhile, his adult children from a previous marriage flew in, claimed their legal shares, and eventually got them. Then came the tax bill. Japan went after his overseas accounts, his property back home, and even his pension assets. It was a mess. Because Japan has mutual tax treaties with many countries, overseas authorities actually assist with the Japanese inheritance tax bite. If there aren't enough accessible assets abroad, Japanese assets are substituted. If you remember one thing from this video, let it be this: you must have a valid will, and it must meet the formal requirements of both Japan and whatever your home jurisdiction is. That's the trap. A will that's perfectly legal in the UK or in the US or any place else might not hold up here in Japan. And even if it does, if it's unclear, incomplete, untranslated, it can cause delay in the process, it can trigger extra taxes, or spark family conflict, because ultimately the family court here in Japan decides. And I'm not saying that non-Japanese are inherently disadvantaged, but I have personally witnessed some twisted interpretations of what might seem rather logical. This is where so many people get caught, and it's so easy to fix before you die. Here's what you can do now to reduce your exposure. Number one, make a valid notarized will in Japan that aligns with your other estate documents. Number two, understand the 10-year rule and plan your residency or departure accordingly. Number three, use lifetime gifting. Up to 1.1 million per heir per year needs to be carefully documented with good records. Number four, consider life insurance. This is what many Japanese families use, and it creates liquidity for the tax. Number five, plan for liquidity. Inheritance tax is due within 10 months. If everything is tied up in real estate, your heirs might be forced to sell. Finally, number six, be proactive with ownership structures, but be aware of triggering a gift tax, which is higher than the inheritance tax. Each of these has caveats and must be tailored to your situation, but they can spare your heirs tremendous pain. As a sidebar, have you ever wondered why so many Tokyo homes, their houses have odd layouts? There's no garden, or maybe there's a shadow of where a garden once was. The garages are too small to fit a modern car, and the noses stick out. Here's how that happened. When daddy dies and there's no tax, mom inherits from dad. But then when mom dies, the son inherits and gets hit with a huge tax bill. To pay it, he carves off the garden, he builds a cheap apartment unit and sells it or leases it. Rinse and repeat. You do this generation after generation, and that inheritance cycle shapes the urban landscape you see today, and in the countryside too. In my neighborhood in Rokubancho, heirs of old samurai families found another way to get around this. They teamed up with developers. In exchange for their land, they received custom penthouses atop office buildings and residential towers, hidden from street view, yet preserved through generations. Elsewhere, we see akiya, abandoned houses. Japan has more than 8.5 million of these. Many are still legally owned by heirs, entangled in tax disputes, or too distant to deal with the property, or they're having just fights with the family. Foreigners are now buying these places up, often without realizing the minefield of taxes, titles, and liabilities involved. Here's the truth. Japan's inheritance system isn't malicious, but it is rigid. If you don't plan, if you assume it doesn't apply to you, you're putting your family at risk. You think you're not so rich, so you don't need a will? Absolutely not. You do need a will for several reasons. Your will is your last voice on how your estate should be distributed. There is only one will, so it must be written to accommodate changing circumstances. Your estate today and in the future can grow suddenly or contract if you inherit from others, or if parts of your estate just are whittled away. If you're an executive on rotation or a long-term resident planning to retire here, act now. Everyone says, yes, I've been thinking about it. I'll get it done one of these days. I'm not going to die right now, so let's wait and see. Wait and see? Get a will. Get it done properly. Make sure it works both in Japan and in your home country, where some of your assets might be, or where they might be when you inherit additional assets from relatives as they pass away. If you need help, reach out. Because once you're gone, you won't suffer, but your family will. They'll be left picking up the pieces and trying to find someone like me to help clean up the mess. So plan ahead, protect your family, give us a call to write your will. Get it finished. Thanks for paying attention. See you soon.